Hello, welcome to Blazor for Kids for Beginners. Today we will create a database, a small database, and a form to be able to input data inside the database. I have prepared here a small Excel table just to show you what we want to create. An employees table where we can store first name, last name, and department, and the departments table where we will store the name of the departments. And after we will create the database, we will create also a form to, or maybe a grid view to show how we can add data inside the database. Like for example, in Excel, I need to come here and manually add the next ID. Then I need to add the first name and the last name, and for department, I will need to choose a new department. Hey, in a web application, we can do a nice form to accomplish all these things. So let's go to see how we can create a database. To create a database, we will focus only on the domain project. And here in the entities folder, for the moment we have two classes. One class is responsible to manage all the interactions with the database. Also, this class will create the database for us. So is coming by default in the template just for you to be able to quickly start developing your database. Here later we will add some custom settings for different properties, but this will be later in another video. What we also have from start is an application user, because Blazor for Kids is coming directly with a kind of authentication system included. So this class is required to store user information. If you don't need login for your application, then you can remove this completely. But usually everybody, when is building a web application, is also needing some kind of authentication. So we, for the moment, do not touch these two classes, but we create our two new classes. First, let's start with employee. So I will create a new class, name it employee. And I make this class public, partial. If you remember from the intro video, all the entities must be partial in order for the source generator to be able to generate some code for us. And to create a Blazor for Kids entity, we just need to implement the interface and tell to the framework that this entity will be managed by application DB context class. And now we implement the interface. And now we already have the first table for our database. This table will store information about employee. We define here 4 columns. One column is ID. So this column in Blazor for Kids is automatically created. We don't need to tell to the framework, hey, I need an ID column. What we need to tell to the framework is that we need to have a first name and a last name. So let's add them. Designer, properties, add text, because the first name is text. First name. And in this way, we just created our first column. Now let's add another column for last name. Okay, so ID is automatically created by the framework. We just created first name and last name. And in order to create a department column, we need first to create department table. Add new class, department. Again, public, partial. We implement the interface. The same DB context. You can use another DB context if you want, but I think this is for advanced users. We stay with one DB context which will manage all our database. And in department table, we need ID, which will be created by the framework, and a name. So let's create the name. Text property and name. Okay, so in this moment we have the second table created. Let's go back to employees, and now in order to add the department column to our table, we need to use another type of property. One entity. Entity, think to the entity like to the table. Employee is an entity and will also be a table in our database. Department is an entity and will also be a table in our database. So I will just say that I need to add another entity which is of type department, and the name will be department. Okay? With this, we just completed our database. We have an employee table with 4 columns. The ID, like I said, we don't need to define, and a department table with 2 columns, name and ID. Okay. Now, we will tell to the framework to create our database. For this, we just go to the web project in the program class, and here we have seed sample database. We need to let this to uncomment this method. In order for the method, let's go to the method to see what is doing. So this is the method, and basically what is doing is if the database exists, we'll delete it and we'll create another database. And in this process of creation of a new database, we'll take care to create our employee and department table with all the configuration required. We don't need to write any line of configuration. So this is now active. This will ensure that we will have a database when we will run the application. Okay, but before running the application, let's also create a table. Just, or maybe both tables, just to see. So first of all, I will go here and I will create a grid view for the employee. Basically, a grid view, it's a table like we have in a Excel file. So here we have a table. Now we create a table and we just say that employee model is the type of data what will be displayed in the grid view and is coming from employee table. And we provide the name, employees table, for example. Okay, let's do the same also for department. We have also a table for department. Now let's create employees page. Okay, but this is the table what we want to have on the page. And let's do also department page, which will have department table. Now, in order for us to be able to access these pages, we need to create a menu, builder, create header, and inside the header, we will create a menu. And in this menu, we will add a menu item for home page, menu item for employees page, and menu item for departments page. Save. And now we are ready to start the application. But you see, when the project was created, a startup project was the first project to use it. We always, with Blazor for Kids, need to start with web project. So for this, I will right click on the web project and set as startup project. And now we can run our web project. Okay, let's run the application. And this is our application. As you see, we have a header bar with 3 menu items inside the home page, employees page, and departments page. So if I go to departments page, I can see that I have a table. And if I click new, I can add production and create. And now I have the production department created. Then I can add quality and let's add sales to have the same data like in Excel file. You see, 3 items, 3 items. Okay, now we can go to employees. And if we try to do the same to create an employee, here we can say first name 1, last name 1, and department is not looking very nice. So what the framework was doing here is because we didn't define what kind of property to use as a text for this here in order for us to be able to know what we are selecting. The framework used the ID of the department, and the ID is looking something like this. So this means that we need to go back to department entity and to tell to the framework which property we want to see when we use a drop down. For this, let me just create one. Okay, so we don't see the name of the department, but I will stop the application and I will go to the department table, and now I can say to the framework designer, default catalog text property. This method is telling to the framework that instead of showing us the ID, please use the name. And I will choose here the name. Okay? Now I can start the application, but remember, every time when we start the application, this method will run. And this method will delete the database and will recreate the database. This time I don't want to delete the database because I will lose the data which I already inserted. So I will comment back the method just to ensure that the data what we already inserted is there. And let's start again the application. And remember, we said to the framework what we want to see for the department. And now we don't see anymore the ID, we see the name of the department. And if we create another record, to last name 2 and department quality, create, and you see now we have 2 employees in our table and with their respective department. So I think it's quite easy for a beginner to create a database and make some tables in a web application. What do you think? I would like to have some feedback from your side. In the next video, we will add more properties to the entities, to employee and department. We will add images, we will add files, just for you to see as simple is to create a database and automatically use this information in the web application.